JD Kane here, VP of Sales for Revinate. Welcome to a video series where we preview the amazing content in our latest hotel marketing benchmark report. We analyzed over 368 million emails across our entire global customer base to pull out benchmarks and insights for you. You can always download the report by going to revinate.com and looking under the Learn menu. Now, let's take a look at each of these 9 sections in detail. I'd like to introduce Dan Wacksman, principal at Sassato, a consultancy focused on hotel technology, marketing, and distribution. Thanks for joining me, Dan.
My pleasure.
Dan and I are going to preview the section on one-time promotions. So Dan, please tell me what you found most interesting about the section on one-time promotions.
Sure. First off, great report, really interesting stuff in there. And I really found myself drawn into the one-time promotion piece of it because it talked a lot about the open rates and the effectiveness of those one-time promotions. And, you know, one of the things that struck me was how low the promotion open rate actually was at 15%. And I think, you know, compared to some of the other types of email promotions, it's much lower. And you sort of have to ask yourself, why is it so low? In my mind, the promotions are potentially the most exciting and the most relevant campaign that you could be running. So in theory, really, it should have the highest open rates and not the lowest open rates. And, you know, so why is this? And in my mind, I think there are probably 2 reasons for it. One is when hotels do promotions, they tend to blast it out to their entire database as opposed to making it much more targeted. And I think when you blast out wide, not only do you risk people opting out, you're also going to have a low open rate and a low click-through rate. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect, I think, is the content. You know, to be, you know, frank, a lot of the hotel promo content is crap. Right? Everything from the subject line to the actual content to the offer, it's all sort of ho-hum, right? It's same thing over and over again. You know, I always have to laugh when I see these sort of recycled promo campaigns and with subject lines like spring into summer. Wow, that's very clever and that's unusual, right? Or sweet deals, right? With it cleverly misspelled like a sweet instead of sweet. Like that hasn't been used to death. And I think, you know, people see that. I don't even know if they take the time to roll their eyes, but they just delete it, you know? And I think email marketers have to be more clever than this, right? You need to have compelling content when you're sending out these emails to get people to open it. So, you know, if I broke it down into a few areas, it's number 1, targeting, make sure that it's clearly targeted. Creating compelling content. And, you know, I think sometimes people underestimate the importance of the subject lines. I mean, it's just so important. It's what's going to get the open and hopefully get people to look at the content and then eventually click through. And then, of course, creating compelling offers. The offers have to be good to get people to go through, but you sort of have to make it through those things first, right? You have to make it through the gatekeepers. And I think you do that by targeting, creating compelling content, and especially subject lines. And I think you see, if you look at that 15% rate, and when I was looking at the data, it was really interesting to me to see that sort of Europe does a lot better in promotions than the US. And I think one of the reasons is they tend to be more targeted, right? Their user base, and I think this is 2019 data, so it's not COVID impacted, or is this COVID impacted?
Yeah, this is COVID impacted.
Okay, it's COVID impacted, which is even more, right? So they're hyper targeted, right? Not a lot of people are going to be able to come to their properties except people who are in certain areas and certain types of people. And I think they're able to send out really specific messages, while, you know, we may be sending out in North America promo messages that are sort of generic and meant to capture everybody. But at the end of the day, you're capturing no one.
Exactly. A lot of good advice in there, Dan. So as the recovery is imminent and you want to give advice to hotels on what they should be doing with their offers to stand out from their competitors, what would you say to them?
Well, I think similar to the point I was trying to make, I think, is that, you know, it's less about the offer. I think the offers are extremely important, but it's more about getting through the gatekeepers, and that's all about messaging, right? And you have to make sure that you have the right message there. that will get them to the offer, right? And the offer has to be good. But I think what we're seeing now is, right, a whole different environment with all this pent up demand, and people wanting to travel, people wanting to get out, people wanting to have fun and be safe at the same time. So I think the question that email marketers need to ask themselves is, how do you message this, right? How do you message you can come to our property, you can have fun, you can be safe, and this is going to be enjoyable? And how can you do it in a fun way as well that's going to get them to look at your subject line and think, hey, that's interesting, let me open it. Then you have the content and say, wow, that looked cool. They have a I don't know, a bar that's, socially distanced, but looks like a lot of fun, where they have live music or whatever it is that you're able to do to have that compelling content. Plus you have this offer there as well. And again, I think one of the things I want to discourage people, same thing we said 6 months ago when we said you're not going to create demand by lowering your rates. I think now you have the demand, and I don't think people are that sensitive to that now. They're more sensitive to the experience. So I think it's about messaging. I think it's making sure you have the right message. And when we talk about email, again, it's not rocket science, right? It's about a subject line that gets people to open it, and then content in there that gets people excited and get them to click through and ultimately, hopefully, convert.
100% agree that the demand's going to be there. It's not about rate right now, and the right appropriate offer speaking to people and their interests, and perhaps giving them something familiar that they've been there before, is what's going to get them to come back now. So thanks a lot. I appreciate your thoughts, Dan.
My pleasure. Great talking to you again, JD.
2020 was a year unlike any other, and it changed everything about the way we should be benchmarking ourselves. This guide has the data that you can use against which you measure your performance. For all the data, please go to revinate.com and download the full guide under the Learn menu. There you'll also find other great research content, such as our traveler study for what the world looks like post-COVID, our guide on what you should be doing to build your marketing strategies throughout the recovery, and finally, an email guide written by Revinate's experts on the insights, strategies, and best practices to be using for email marketing in general. Thank you.